I want to start this video off by looking into the religion of the Western Roman Empire in Rome Total War, Barbarian Invasion. This is a map of Christianity at roughly the start date, and this is my map of where Christianity is in the game. As you can see, some places such as southern Italy, North Africa and Sardinia are mostly very accurate. Then there is the pagan world, Britain for instance, 100% pagan, again accurate. But there's a weak point in their map, and that's France and southern Iberia. However, let's add Christian characters, not just Christian settlements. Let's put Christian characters in there as well, and where they spawn, and then boom. As we can see, the game shows these areas as being much more pagan than they were historically, but as you can see, the developers made these areas contain Christian characters in the game to represent the massive religious change that the Empire was experiencing. However, for the purpose of balance, they could not go 100% historical. Welcome to Total War Profiled, a series that looks into Total War content and finds where developers got their inspiration from. Today we will be looking into the Western Roman Empire, from Rome Total War, Barbarian Invasion. We have already seen Eastern Rome, but that was in Attila Total War. I may come back to Western Rome again, but for Attila in the future, so make sure you're subscribed to get notified of that. The starting diplomacy, oddly, is kind of accurate. They are allied to the Eastern Roman Empire, which was correct. Their faction leader, historically, was known to have fought against the Picts, the Sarmatians, the Alemanni, and in Africa. In-game, you start off at war with all of these. The Sarmatians and the Alemanni, and also the Berbers, if they're representing Africa, and the Picts, who are representing the Celts in the game. So, diplomacy, very accurate. When it comes to the family of the Western Roman Empire, as you can imagine, it is quite large by this point. A total of 21 generals. I couldn't do too much research into every single one, so I may have missed some points. However, from what I did manage to gather, it seems that only 3 were historically accurate in the game, and the rest were just fiction. First, we have Valentinius the Wrathful. Historically, Valentinian I, known as the last great Western Roman emperor, and he was the last one to go on the offensive against the barbarians, actually sending legions out, building forts, trying to expand the borders and try to tame them, sort of thing. After he died, everything began to really collapse. In-game, at the start, he is 62 years old. Historically, he was dead by 54, and 41 at the start date, so which start date is 363 AD, so as always it's got the age completely wrong. He was known to be aggressive and violent. In game he is called the Wrathful and carries a trait called Uncontrollable Rage. This has been done by the developers to try and represent his personality. The second character of interest is the eldest son to Valentinian, historically called Gratian. Now in game there is no Gratian, but there is Gratianus, or Gratianus I guess. This man in game at least is the ultimate coward. He has a ridiculous amount of traits and retinue that just decreases morale on the battlefield. Historically there is no reference to Gratian being like this. Historically he was the eldest son of Valentinius, but in game he was just the nephew. Overall, there is no historical link between them both, except for the name. Servius is another general in the game who shares a name with a major historical general at the time, Severus, but there is literally nothing else connecting them. At the end of the day though, I do believe these were intentional. The odds that these 2 historical names show up by accident is unlikely. The developers just they were willing to put a few interesting names in there, but no actual full research. There's many references in the retinues to office positions, such as Magister Peditum. These, from my research, do seem to be accurate, but of course they're given to all the wrong characters. Let's take a look into their buildings. They start off with the ability to choose between Christian churches and pagan temples. They have the usual Christian buildings from chapel to basilica, but it is the pagan temples that I think are most interesting. The Temple of Mithras. Mithras was a god under the mysterious religion Mithrasism. This involved secret handshakes and was mostly populated by the military. To me it seems like an early version of the stonemasons. The military side is portrayed in-game as the temple provides a military boost to units recruited there. The second, Sol Invictus, which was about sun god worship. Not too much to say there, I don't think. In-game, compared to Mithras, it's kind of dull, and that's both temple and the actual religion. Mithras is just so much better. I also want to mention one interesting fact in-game. The pagan temples are 4 tiers max, whereas the Christian ones allow 5 tiers. This is to represent the fact that Christianity survived, whereas paganism also survived but to a much lesser extent. It simply did not exist long enough historically in the Roman Empire to have a 5th tier, whereas Christianity did and did receive the funding to be able to build such massive structures. Last but not least, their unit roster. First up, the Preventores. These are described in-game as being spies and agents that were meant to scout ahead. Just a basic sword and shield unit, used tactically. The name is in Latin and it translates to Vanguard. Historically these units were known as interceptors, that was the word that I would have used. I could not find any more info online about them, but they seem to be accurate enough. The comitatenses are also accurate. These were the main backbone of the Roman army during the time. The Limitani, these were units that were put on the far reaches of the empire, kind of like a basic garrison. In the game, they have high defense and can fight for a really long time, but don't necessarily get too many kills. This is accurate though. With them being on the front, their purpose was to kind of provide a basic defense and hold off until the main army arrived, the comitatenses, and the rest of the legions and stuff like that. Which is how they're meant to be used in the game. That's the strategy. They're just meant to slow down the enemy until the real heavy infantry come. The other spear unit, the Foederatari, is also very accurate, a barbarian unit that was recruited by the Romans to fill in the ranks. In return, they got paid or were allowed to settle in Roman lands. In-game, as you can clearly see, they are barbarian in their appearance. However, you can recruit these anywhere. Carthage, for example. There would have been no barbarians who looked like that at the time in that region, so it is a historical inaccuracy. It would have been better if they did it like how the Spartans are in Rome Total War, where they can only be trained in certain settlements, or like a mercenary unit for example, but it's not too bad, I can't really complain. A cav unit they have in their roster is the Shole Palantina, accurate as an elite bodyguard unit, although I believe they were not cavalry but infantry historically. The Bucellari, the crossbow units. These were a real unit, their numbers were mostly made up of generals and high-ranking civilians. There were small private armies which would often work for the Roman Empire. Generally speaking, they were described to have been better equipped than normal soldiers, but there is no reference to them having crossbows or crossbows only, that I could find anyway. However, crossbows were used at the time of the Roman Empire by the Western Romans, so it is accurate, but still the devs added their own interpretation onto this unit. Last and least, we have the Plumetari, a javelin skirmish unit. I could find no reference to them at all, not even the name. Maybe if I looked deeper I could find something, but I'm going to say this unit here is inaccurate. The final thing I wanted to talk about is possibly the most interesting of all. The army in Eboricum starts off with a unit of Sarmatian Auxilia. This unit is accurate and based off of the Ala I Sarmatarum, which were based in Britain. These were barbarian horsemen hired by the Romans to guard Hadrian's wall. They have the right name, the right position, and it's just one unit, which I really like. It's loads of detail just put into one random unit that no one's really ever done a notice. Super weird to see that they had this unit in, so accurate, but failed with the other 20 generals or so. And that is everything. I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode of Total War Profiled. Next week I will look into either Venice or France from Medieval to Total War. I may actually let tier 3 Patreons vote on that. Yeah, that's what I'll do. Overall, in Barbarian Invasion, I gave the Western Roman Empire 4 stars out of 5. There's a lot of accuracy here, which I really do like, especially the detail to that unit. That alone sent it up by +1 star. But still, there's a lot of wasted potential here. But compared to Rome Total War Vanilla and all the factions in that, this is the most accurate by far, so yeah, I gotta give it 4 stars. I really like the Western Roman Empire in this game. Again, it's never done me perfect, and just because it receives 5 stars, that doesn't mean it's perfect either. But I think it deserves 4 stars. Subscribe for more, share with anyone who you think may be interested, as that makes these videos more worthwhile for me to do. Hope you enjoyed it, and goodbye.